So every game has a goal, and every goal has a series of steps that you need to follow to get to that goal. In our case, our game has the goal of collecting crops, which we would then turn around and sell at market. We have a farmland system where we can plant crops on, and we have a basic inventory system to keep track of the crops that we have already harvested. But we don't have any real way of purchasing any resources for the player from the sale of these crops. This is a topic that I have discussed in our previous video, but now we're actually going to dive into it and make it a reality. So welcome back to Obsidian Dawn Studios, everybody. If you're new here at the studio, we dive into everything game design and Unreal Engine 5 related. We cover topics ranging from animation and lighting to blueprinting and game design topics in general. In our last few videos, we have been creating a farm simulator game with a looter-style game twist, essentially creating a game where you would harvest crops to sell for resources, and then go into another game location to hunt for artifacts that you would then turn around and sell for more resources. The idea behind this was to create a farm that the player would spend a good amount of time on to get bonuses from, where you would collect crops and animals, and you would then use those bonuses from the crops and animals and go into the forest to find artifacts. In our last video, we delved into the topic of a market system for the game, where the player would be able to sell off the crops that they had collected in order to do something with the inventory system. What we didn't have set up at the time was a way to purchase items to add to the player's inventory, and while I did talk about it and talk about adding a seed system, we didn't actually get to it due to time constraints. In today's video, however, we're going to be doing just that. We're going to be adding a seed system to the game, as well as a currency system for the player to use to purchase those seeds. And we will also be creating a buy station, similar in style to our market point, that the player will be able to walk up to and purchase individual items in quantities. Since we didn't go into this last time, I'm going to be showcasing how we would go about making the widget for the purchase point from scratch. It'll be similar in style to the market sell point widget, but because I didn't show how that was made before, I will do so now, and we will also be creating new variables for the player model, as well as a new blueprint actor for the buy station. We have a couple of things to get into, but we should be able to cover all these topics relatively quickly. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so in order to create our buy station system, we're going to want to add a few variables to the player character itself. So, the first thing that we're going to do is come to our player character model. In my case, I'm using third-person character. So we're going to come to the blueprint section, click on your third-person character blueprint class, and once this opens up, we're not actually going to add any code here. We're just going to add a couple of variables that will be called later in different blueprints. So the first thing that we're going to do, you see I've got number of carrots, pumpkin, and tomato here. This is for our inventory system as well as the selling station. So we're going to create the seed system out of this. We're going to take all three of these and we're going to duplicate them. And we're going to call these seeds underscore, I'll call this seed C for carrot, and we'll do the same thing for pumpkin and tomato. Duplicate, call the tomato one seed T. Oh, get off of that. Duplicate, and call this seed P. The reason I did a duplicate is because I have these set up with categories, or they should have been set up with categories. I'm going to add these to a category over here in the default or in the details panel. By clicking on category, you'll highlight default, and you can type whatever word you want here, and it will put anything with that category name into its own class. So what we're going to do, we're going to call these inventory. Yeah, we'll just call it inventory. And you can see it created a new category over here called inventory. This is just a way to keep everything organized. We can now add the category to each of these. It'll be sitting down here. Now you don't need to do this. I'm doing this just because it's fast and it's a good way of keeping everything organized. Set all this up. There we go. Compile, save, and just double check to make sure that we don't have anything in any of our integers. Looks good. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to want to add is a gold coin or currency variable. So we're going to click the plus sign for a variable. We're going to call it, we can just call it coins. You can name this however you want, but we're going to make it an integer because we're going to be dealing with whole numbers. If you're dealing with anything percentage-wise or fractions-wise, you'll use float values. Whole numbers, you'll want to use integers just to keep everything tidy and organized. So that's all we're going to do in the player character model. We'll back out of that. Now what we can do, if we go back to our developer folder, we have our cell crops carrot widget over here. So what we're going to want to do in order to make our purchasing station, we're going to want to make essentially the same widgets as what we have here, but we're going to build them off of a parent widget first. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make a duplicate. No, actually I'm not. Instead, I'm going to show you how to make the widget itself. So if you right click in an empty space, come down to user interface, and at the bottom of user interface, there is a widget blueprint. Click on that and click on user widget on this menu that comes up. This should be the only option that you have. If it's not, you'll just want to use user widget. Click on it. You'll have a blank widget. Name it what you want. We'll name this purchase point. And I'll call this base. Purchase point base. We'll open this up. And you can see we have a blank canvas now. So in order for this to look essentially the same as what we had done before, we're going to want to add a canvas to it. This is the screen that the player will see. Ooh, there we go. And now that we have the canvas, we're going to want to add a border to it. We'll drag and drop it into the middle of it. And with it selected, we're going to want to anchor it to the center. Zero out the positions. And down here at alignment, we're going to want to put 0.5. Put it on the X and Y axis. And this should make it dead center, as you can see here. Now, since we are going to be making this essentially a copy of the cell point widget, we're going to use the cell point widget as a base model, I suppose you could call it. So let's go ahead and open one up. We'll open up the carrots. And as you can see, I've got this nice green color for the background border here, which the border itself is set to draw as image, which is what it's set on our purchase point. Draw as image down here. You could see that the alpha on the two are different, and that's because I set the alpha on the original cell point to 25% opacity. So we're going to take the color. We're just going to highlight and copy our hex linear. These two numbers here will be perfect. Cancel that. And just to double check, we have the size on this set to 300 and 500. So we'll make this the exact same size. So we're going to come over here, size 300, and we'll do 500. There we go. Color and opacity. Highlight, paste, enter. I think I clicked on the wrong thing. I did. That's the content. Down in tint, we're going to want to do that. There we go. And that's exactly what we were looking for. Now, what I believe we had before, we had a text render, and we had a button. Ooh. I don't believe this is how we set it up before. So let's take a look, see. So if we select border, we have under border, we have button, and then we have text. And it looks like inside the canvas, it's just another text. Okay. So here's what we are going to do. We're going to copy this, and we're going to remake it over here. So inside a canvas, we're going to set a text. We're going to call this buy station. We're going to set the text block to we're going to set the text block to the center, 0, 0, and we're going to do alignment of 0.5, 0.5 to get it center again. There we go. We're going to come down to justification on the text box, center it. That looks good. And we're going to call this buy seeds. We'll do that. But it's in the dead center. What we want is for it to be up higher. So if we go over to cell crops, select the text here, we can see that it is positioned at -150. Let's see what that does here. Position on Y, set that to 150. There we go. Set it right there. Now we'll take a button, set it to border. I don't know why it did that. There we go. Center, center, and we're going to take another text item and attach it to the button. That looks good. And we'll do just an X for the text, because this is going to be our exit button. I messed up. Let's try that again. We're just going to set that to X. We're just going to copy the size over here. Center, center. And it is sized to the text inside. So let's do 24. Oh, it's already set to 24. Okay. It looks like everything's in good shape. We're going to check out scale real quick. No, everything looks the same. There it is. 0.5 is what we're looking for. 0.5 and 0.5. So we're going to do this. There we go. And we're going to move this up. We want it to be right about in the corner. Put it right there. There we go. And now we're going to take a secondary border. And we're going to do a vertical box. This allows us to put multiple objects in one spot connected to each other in a vertical pattern instead of across the widget. So inside that vertical box, we're going to do 3 buttons. We're going to make one button first. We'll call this buy 1. There we go. We'll just do by 1. And we're going to do, on padding, we're going to go to bottom, and we're going to do 25. I do not know why it is there. I know why it's there now. Back in the center, zero out both of these and set the alignment. Got to remember to do this so that it's all center with each other. And as you can see, we have a border, but it doesn't have an actual line around it. And that is because this border is actually set up as a border. All it is a way to contain the vertical box. So we're going to take the buttons here, make sure that I have that set. 20 was too much. We're going to set that to 10 instead. And we're going to make sure that the border is the correct size. We did 130. So we're going to click on border, 130. That's good. By 1. Let's set the text for that real quick. Oh, I don't have any text on it. Let me add text to that real quick. Oh, that was a mistake. Put it on there. There we go. And we're going to do justification, center. There we go. And we will do... Oops. By 1. There we go. Now I seem to be missing something real quick. Size is auto. Text, center, center. I think I was missing that. Center, center. Auto. I think I'm still missing something. Auto. Focusable. 24. Spacing. Outline. I do need to add the outline. But it doesn't look like that is set to center. Interesting. Okay. So we'll try to make a copy of that instead. We'll do this. We'll do an outline. As soon as I can find it. There we are. Do an outline of 2. There we go. I see what's wrong here now. It's the border not being set up correctly yet. So we're going to make copies of the buttons real quick. We'll make 2 copies, 1 for each. By 1 is going to be by 5. And the second one that we made is going to be by 10. And we're going to take the border, size to content. There we go. Border is also going to be set to border, just like we talked about earlier. That should be good. By 1. Do by 5. And by 10. There we go. Compile, save. And our purchase point is now set up. Still need to set this with an outline though. We'll do 2. There we go. Compile, save. Good. I think that's all we needed for that. Double check. The padding is set up. Ah, that's what I had forgotten. If we select each of these, holding down Control, we can select all of them. And we can set this up padding 10. There we go. And we'll do top 10. There we go. That looks better. And now we have pretty much a direct copy of our cell crops set up as a buy station instead. Now what we need to do is set up the individual code for this. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add our exit button. So if we come down to the bottom of the right, on clicked, we now have button 936. I believe that's just the exit button. I don't know why it keeps saying that. We can rename it, I suppose. Or maybe it's not going to let us. Let's delete this. Go back to the designer. Button 936. There we go. And now we can click on it. The exit button. So what we wound up doing with the exit button on our cell point, if we come up here, on clicked. Oh, there it is. Button 256, the cell or the exit button. We remove the widget from the parent, set the game pause to off. Then we set input game mode only and show the mouse cursor. All right, so we're going to remove from parent. Set game mode. On to game only, which gives the player control of the character again. Off of player controller, we're going to get player pawn. Or no, player controller. We're going to get player controller off of that. Good. And I missed a part. We need to unpause the game before we do this. Set game paused. That's good. And show cursor. I think I called it something else. Set show mouse cursor. That's what it was. But we come off of player controller. If I can spell. There we go. Set show mouse cursor. Set here. And that's all the code we need for an exit button. So here's what we're going to do for our purchasing. If we click on the button for buy one, we can set up a base code for this. So we're going to, on clicked, buy one. If we come over to cell crops, we can see we get a player reference, and then we get all the variables from the player. So we're going to be doing this, but in reverse. So instead of subtracting, we're going to be adding stuff to the player. I suppose we'll also be subtracting gold from the player, and we'll have to add something else here in order to subtract, or in order to add gold to the player when we sell something. So let's go into this. First thing that we're going to want to do, and we're going to want to do this first saying get player reference. Always create a function to get a reference to your player so that you can pull variables when you need them. We're going to cast to third person, or whatever character blueprint you have. Get player pawn. And create a variable. Player ref. There we go. Compile. And back in the event graph, on construction, we're going to want to call that function. That's all we need for that. Now that we have that, we have a player reference. Get. Let's do. Ooh. This is the base. So I am not certain how we would go about doing this where we can just swap it between each of the variables. So we're going to do this instead. We're going to set this up for the carrot, and then we'll see what we can do with turning this into a child blueprint later. So we're going to get seeds, C, and we are going to also get coins. We're also going to want to set these, so we will do a set seeds C and coins. We're going to do a plus to add 1. And set that. Then we're going to do a minus, and we're going to want to come up with a value for the seeds. For now, I'd say that we just do something small. Let's do 1. So we'll subtract 1 from the player every time they purchase a seed. And we will have that kick off right after we increase it. So if this works correctly, we should have 1 seed added to the player for each coin that we pay for. This is all good. And it should work exactly the same as the code here, just in reverse. But there is something on our sell point that we do not have on our purchase point, and that's going to be a check to make sure that the buttons can be enabled and disabled depending on if they have enough coins. So we're going to create this bit of code here. So we are going to create a custom event. We're going to call this check for button availability. And off of the execution node, we're going to do a sequence. What the sequence allows you to do is kick off multiple events simultaneously without having to run it through multiple different execution nodes. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to want to check whether or not we want the first button enabled. And this is just going to be the exact same code all the way down for each button. So the first thing that we're going to want to do, we're going to take the player ref. We're going to get coins. And if the coins are greater than or equal to 1, we're going to come off of a branch, connect that to the first execution node, and then we're going to take our button, which is the buy 1, and we're going to set enabled, and we'll do that twice, because if it is true, then it's going to be enabled. If it is not true, then it won't be enabled. Boom, boom. Come down here. That should be good. And now what we can do is create a blueprint for this. So we're going to create something similar to our crop sell point. We're going to call it a purchase point. Opening up that blueprint, we're going to add a static mesh. Let's call it bowl. And we'll just choose the bowl that we had previously. Huh. I seem to have misplaced it. There we go. Temporary basket. We'll call it that. That's a little bit big, I think. That might be a little bit big. If we open this up. No, I suppose it is the exact same. Okay, so we have that. And we're going to want to add a widget. And we're going to want to add a collision field. I will do a box collision like we did before. There we go. Set this to 50-50 and 100. We'll set the X to 25. There we go. So that this is pretty much exactly the same as the crop sell point. There we go. Now, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did in the previous creation, and I'm going to speed through this a little bit just so we can get on with the rest of the video. Alright, so I wanted to cover this point real quick because this is not something that I really went over in the last video very well. In order to create the menu widget when you go to interact with this object, we're going to be creating this bit of code right here. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is create our user widget. So back in our purchase point, when we go into the event graph, now that we have our implemented interface over here, we can double click that. On interact, we will create widget. Off of create widget, we are going to create, let's say, purchase point. Because we have the purchase point base, we'll set it up for this. And we'll have to do this for each widget that we put in. But essentially it will be, well, actually we can just do this real quick. Promote to a variable. And we can set this variable to public. We can set the base of the variable to purchase point. There we go. And we're going to set the widget reference to this. I don't think that's going to work. Huh. Either way, I don't think that part is particularly needed, not for this part to work. So what we're going to do, we're going to come off of return value. We're going to add to viewport. Next, what we're going to do is come off of this. We're going to set game mode, game and UI. Or set input game, set input mode. Ha. Actually, it looks like I might have done this the opposite way. Set input mode. Huh. There we go. Nope, come off of that and we'll do player controller. Get player controller, there we go. set game pause, and then we are going to set the mouse cursor. If I can spell very well. And we will show the mouse cursor right here. So now that we have that, we can set this up so that we can see if this works correctly. So if we come down here, and let's just snag this table real quick. Move it over here, and now we have a purchase point. We will simply rotate this. Drag it up. And let's test it. Play from here. There we go. We now have a button set up where we can interact with the object. But if you notice, this button is not disconnected yet, which means something went wrong there. This is a very simple problem. I figured out exactly what we didn't do. This needs to be called. So on event tick, we're going to do check for button availability. Compile, save. Now let's try it. Play from here. And the button is disabled. We cannot use it because we don't have any coins. So now that we have that settled, we can now duplicate this bit of code for each button. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. All right, and now that we have that taken care of, we're actually going to set up a coin increase code in the other blueprint that we have. So we're going to come over to sell crops carrots, and we're probably going to have to do this for each of the blueprints, but we'll just do it on carrots real quick to see if this works correctly. We're going to get rid of our print strings here, and off of player reference, we are going to get coins. Then we are going to do a set coins. There we go. And now I just have to do that with pumpkins and tomato. So I will do that real quick. All right. So now that I've gone in and added that bit of code, we now will make coins each time we sell a crop. And we can actually add this to the widget tracker that we have. Let's see if we open that up real quick. If I can remember where I put it. Crop tracker, there we are. We can actually add this. So let's add a duplicate of carrot. Yeah, let's go ahead and add that. And we will call this coins. There we go. We'll actually move that up. That was not where I wanted to put that. Move it up and still keep it inside the vertical box. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing in the second vertical box, naming this coins. Well, I suppose I have to name it coins 2. There we go. And the number is going to be set to a new binding. We're going to create a binding. And off of our player reference, we are going to get coins. And we are simply going to plug it into this. This is our 2-text integer conversion, and that should work perfectly fine. So now we have a number of coins. So let's go over and sell off a carrot. It looks like I might have broken something. Oh, interesting. Back to crop tracker. Ah, I see what I did wrong. There we go. I believe that should fix it. All right, perfect. So if we sell a pumpkin, we should get a decent amount of coins. We get 3 coins. Nice. And we can purchase seeds using those coins now. A little bit more tidying up, and this should look pretty good. So let me get that all taken care of real quick, and I'll show you the final result. Alright, now that we're back, I believe that I got this all prettied up, and it should be working just fine. So let's get looking at it real quick. So you can see our coins is now added to our tracker in the bottom corner. We can still go into our market. All the buttons are disconnected. If we come over to the buy station, we can now select carrot, tomato, pumpkin. The buttons are disconnected right now on all of these, but the exit button still works. So let's collect some crops, and then we will sell them off and get some coins, see what all we can do. So I'm going to collect carrot, tomato, pumpkin real quick. I have 2 pumpkins. Let's go to the pumpkins and sell them. We have 2. Now we have 6 coins. Sell off a tomato. Now I've got 8 because you get 2 coins for a tomato. And now we have 9 because you get 1 coin for a carrot. Now with 9 coins, we can buy 1 or 5 seeds. So let's go ahead and buy 1, subtract it off of our coins. I'm going to have to create a tracker for the seeds, but I do believe that we now have a seed in our inventory. So if we come over to pumpkin, purchase, that subtracted 1 off of that as well. I believe I need to fix that. Yeah, I believe I'll need to fix that. And we'll buy 1 off of this. So we are now able to buy and sell crops. And we can now use our inventory to make some currency so that we can go and purchase plots of land. We can purchase seeds to plant on that land. And we can start the whole cycle all over again. All in all, I'd say that we created a decent farm sim game loop where you purchase seeds, plant them, harvest them, then sell them to get more coin to purchase more seeds. And because we have it set up so that we can sell the different types of crops for different amounts of profit, we should have a basic system where you'll want to purchase the lesser quality crops in order to purchase the more valuable crops later on after you harvest them. So all in all, I think this was a success. Alright everybody, that concludes our video today on adding a purchase point widget and buy station system to our game. I apologize for how long that took, but I believe we covered all of our bases and the buy station complements our market sell system perfectly. If you found this video helpful in any way, please check out our other videos where we dive into timelines and blueprints while creating crops and gate mechanics, with the videos linked in the description below. If you like this series, please subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on our videos and hit the bell to stay notified for when we release our next video in the series. Next time, we'll be diving into something a little simpler and showing off a level loading system, which we will be using to travel from the farm and into the forest. Until next time, remember, go out, make an impact.